Who's ready for some experimental theater? The old pros are, I'll tell you that right now. We got Gila Zalan and Gregory Anderson joining us. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us in.
Absolutely. So I'm going to say it. The name of the presentation you guys are coming up is Schizo.
That's right.
It kind of reminds me of Psycho from back in the day, the old movie a little bit.
Sort of. Somebody suggested we ought to spell it Skitso.
Okay.
It's not as sinister as it might sound, though.
Not as sinister as it might sound. So how did the name come about, and what's the presentation all about?
Well, here's what it is. I had a feeling when I was on stage at one time and doing a part, and I looked at my person I was working with, and I said, oh my God, that's such an interesting part. I wish I could get into it. I wish I could do both parts. Mm-hmm. And so when they needed an idea for something to do for the old pros, I thought about that, and I thought, what fun that would be if we gave the actors an opportunity to play two different roles in the same little scene. Gets them to sort of do something different. Now the audience has to get in on it also.
Right.
They have to kind of figure out what's going on as they're watching it, right? Because it's going to be a little bit different. I'm sure they're going in knowing a little bit about what's going on, but it's going to be, the interesting part would be like the transitions, the back and forth in a conversation, right?
Absolutely. That's the challenge. You know, you're playing, in some cases, 3 roles. Most of the actors are playing 2, but you're
directing the one with 3, though, right?
I am.
Streetcar Named Desire.
Streetcar Named Desire. My actress, Jean Wrights, she plays 3 different characters. So she has to make each one of those characters believable.
Stanley, Stella?
No, actually, that would be an even bigger challenge. She plays the landlord or landlady, Eunice. And of course, she plays Blanche Dubois, and she plays her sister Stella.
Okay.
So the primary scene is between her and Blanche and Stella, but she has to introduce Eunice as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Interestingly, Lee McMorris is going to be doing 3 parts, 3 people, characters also, and one of them is a man.
That's right.
So she's doing the cherry orchard, and she'll be playing Luba, who's the woman who owns the orchard, Luba's daughter, and then the guy that bought the cherry orchard. So she's got, she's really got to tear herself in 3.
Okay. Now, are there subtle costume changes that happen, or are they just kind of repositioning themselves? How are you guys orchestrating the change so the audience realizes we're changing characters' voices and those kinds of things happen?
You know, that is a good question, because the challenge is, how do you distinguish when you're somebody else? So there isn't room for a costume change. There's no time for that.
Right.
So essentially it's body language and tone of voice.
Okay.
So it might even be simply just the way a person slouches in a chair, as opposed to sits upright. And it may be just the tone of the voice. For instance, Eunice is a southern New Orleans woman, so she has a much deeper voice. She talks like, "Are you lost, honey?" as opposed to Blanche, who's got a much higher pitched voice, So it's the way they change their voice and their posture more than costume changes or anything else like that.
Okay.
Right.
And also going into this, when you guys had your first rehearsals and you had this, was there a point where you said, is this going to work? And then when did it start working?
I know the actors said that many times.
That's a good question.
Right?
When I'm working with my husband, for instance, he's doing 2 parts in, he's doing Death of a Salesman, The Two Sons. And the very first time I worked with him, he said, how do I do? What if I don't get it? Then the audience isn't going to get it. But by rehearsal 2, we were having fun.
Okay. Now there are examples out there. Did you guys look at any The 3 Faces of Eves or M. Night Shyamalan's Split, or characters who are having some sort of internal, Psycho famously, of course, Norman and his mother, right? Is there anything that you can pull from those things?
It's a movie.
Yeah.
Those are movies.
Yeah, I understand that, but at least there are characters in there who did kind of embody 2 different things sometimes at the same time.
And that's what we've been working on. Jean and I have been working on that a lot, because she really was kind of monotone at first. You couldn't really distinguish each character.
Right, yeah.
So I'm helping her discover those characters and be those characters. And it is a bit psycho, because you have to kind of be one and the next in the same conversation.
Right, because he's Noam, and then he's the mother
Right.
at some point, and they had a little back and forth. Remember, they were arguing. And
That's right.
You hear the argument from the bottom of the hill, the top of the house, and they're going back and forth, and he's embodying both those
That's
characters.
exactly what we're trying to get, because there is an
Right.
interchange between Stella and Blanche where they're kind of having this intense conversation. And Jean has to sell that. So in one, we're not able to do multiple takes and multiple
Right,
cuts,
right.
so she can record one part and then record the other. She's literally got to switch her voice between conversations.
Yeah.
And we ask the audience to try to get into it. At the very beginning, we explain what it's all about, and we say, now you have to use your imaginations as much as they have to use their talents.
Right, right. And I imagine that's a challenge, especially like you said, for maybe a scene where there's in the actual presentation of a play, there might be overlapping because there's an argument. I usually don't wait for the next person to finish
interrupt.
talking, right? And so
Yes.
where are the challenges there in terms of making that distinction, but having the pace of it still
Yes, they have to talk fast, and they have to move fast. And in some cases, we do have them doing exactly that. What do you mean I'm doing this? Of course you're doing that. What, you know?
It gets real schizo.
It gets real schizo. There we go. How did you guys decide which plays to kind of recreate those scenes from? What went into that?
It's all
I
Gila.
There we go,
wanted
Gila.
to get as different, the play as different as each, from one from the other as could be. So we have the Russian one.
Yeah,
have
we
one
got
Russian one.
Anton Chekhov's The
Yes.
Cherry Orchard,
Right, we have Tennessee Williams, the streetcar.
Streetcar Named Desire, right?
Yeah, we have the Death
Arthur
of a
Miller,
Salesman,
Death of a Salesman.
the two, and then
Neil
The Odd
Simon's
Couple.
and
The Odd
the Odd
Couple.
Couple, which is the comedy.
That's a real fun one.
So we have a comedy, we have a tragedy, comic tragedy, which is what they call the Cherry Orchard. We have the American problem, the death of what America used to be in Streetcar, and then Death of a Salesman is the human touch and family problems.
Or Streetcar? Or
Death of a Salesman.
yeah.
Yeah.
A
I
little
mean, and even the plays themselves get a little bit schizo. But the thing is interesting is that you have very broad characters in each one of these. And that's the other challenge. It's not just about trading lines. It's about creating each character very broadly. So, I mean, take Odd Couple, for instance. You've got two completely contrasting characters to begin with.
Right.
Now you're asking one actor to convincingly play Oscar and Felix.
So what are some of the things how did you prepare in terms of I'm going to be directing, you're directing 3, that's a big lift, and you're directing the 1, but how do you kind of prepare to say, how am I going to give this person notes, and how are we going to embody that? Did you come with your own idea, the actors come with theirs, and they kind of merge somewhere in the middle?
Yes, something like that, yes.
Yeah, I actually prepared by working out a scheme on paper before even first getting to my actor, so that I could give them something to start with, so they didn't have to just say, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I had a sort of a preparation with each one to, like a Russian accent with, we worked on a Russian accent with the Cherry Orchard, and it gave her a sense of where to go from there.
Okay.
And for my part, this is the first time I've actually done any directing. So for me, it was the challenge of understanding the scene that I was going to direct, and then working with Jean to find out how I could interpret the scene myself and then use her skills together. You know, just as you said, it's a collaborative thing. I basically had to understand what was going on from my perspective and then offer that to her in observing. So I observe what she does and I think, okay, you could probably do this a little differently. And then she actually came up with her own comments. So it was a real good collaboration.
There you go. Well, it's coming up on Wednesday. Are you guys excited at this point? I mean, I'm guessing that's the final rehearsals or a couple of things like that.
It ramps up. It gets real intense right at the end.
Right. Everybody gets nervous towards the end. A part of the problem is we can't rehearse on the stage, so they all realize we have exactly one run through on stage. which makes people kind of jittery, but
Stay sharp.
they'll be great.
Yeah, hopefully
Yep.
they get to wear running shoes when they're doing all the movement, but they're doing it up there. All right, folks, it's called Schizo. It's going to be over at Clubhouse 7, Wednesday, January 22nd. Doors open at 6:30, shows at 7 p.m. Members are free if you're a member of the Old Pros. Guests are $5 per person. Thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank
Gregory
you.
and Hila, for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.